Know your rights. We're tracking the numbers, and landlord-tenant disputes are topping the complaints coming into our Call 12 for Action Center. Would you know what to do if the heat stopped working in your apartment?
What if a pipe broke and the landlord refused to fix it? Tonight we're uncovering the vital information you need to know so you can know your rights when things go wrong. Susan Hogan brings us that story only on Eyewitness News.
A West Warwick mom says her baby's health was put at risk, and she blames the conditions of their home they were renting. That's just the tip of the iceberg. What we found will have you wanting to know what's inside this landlord-tenant handbook, inside and out.
Here you just have a light dangling from the...
Yep, our light's dangling from the ceiling, and if you leave it on too long, it sparks.
Jessica Bailey gives us a tour of her rented home in West Warwick.
This fan in here snapped. He refused to do anything about it. Because when we take a shower, the pipes back up in the shower and drain right out into our bathroom floor from underneath that sink.
And then there's this, a recent lab report confirming her 9-month-old son's lead level is at 9. According to the health department, 10 is considered dangerous.
When we moved in here, he promised us it was a fixer-upper, that he was going to pay for everything.
Jessica says the landlord left her family with an unfinished and unhealthy apartment, not knowing her rights or who to turn to. Jessica called us.
Open wiring right there. There's some issues with plumbing here as well.
We contacted the town's building, electrical, and plumbing inspectors. They came out in force. In less than 30 minutes in the home, it was clear what needed to be done.
The tenants will have to move.
Are you condemning this property?
We are going to condemn the property.
For every one of these kinds of properties, there's probably a few more just like this.
Dozens.
Thousands of properties. In Nancy Ponte's case, she heads up the Housing Law and Foreclosure Prevention Program for Rhode Island Legal Services. When conditions get this bad, she has one cardinal rule for renters.
I would never advise someone just not to pay their rent. The best course of action is just to file for a restraining order.
Really?
In district court.
In extreme cases like Jessica's, there is no time to wait for the court process. She's going to have to move. And it was time for us to get answers from her landlord.
I'm Susan Hogan from Channel 12.
And break the news that his property was just condemned.
It's unfit. It's condemned. That's your home. I mean, don't you have some responsibility for this?
I reduced the rent that he received. A lot of this is he's making up.
How can you make up the fact that you have violations, though? That you can't make up.
And he said that he had the knowledge to repair him, and I reduced the rent for him.
Regardless of any deals struck between the tenant and landlord, Legal Services says the landlord owns the house and the problems that come with it.
And you're going to be cited for lots of violations.
Yeah, well, now, I've got to do something, right?
Bottom line, if you're a tenant, make sure you get everything in writing from the moment you sign a lease to any complaints to the moment you move out. You do have rights, but so does your landlord. So being informed is your best defense. I'm Susan Hogan, Eyewitness News.